Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. I am Amanda.
I'm Laura.
I'm Kendra.
And just a reminder to like and review the podcast so others can find us. But I'm excited to tell you that you are in for a treat today. We have a special guest, Dimitrios Tsatiris, MD, who is a psychiatrist specializing in anxiety management. He has a particular interest in the interface of anxiety and achievement and has a Psychology Today blog titled Anxiety in High Achievers. Ding, ding, ding. So Dr. Tsatiris is passionate about empowering people to break free from the shackles of anxiety and develop a healthy relationship with achievement. And that's what we're going to talk about today is the healthy relationship with achievement. If you are not already following him on social media at Dr. Dimitrios, you are missing out. He seriously has some of the best content out there. It seems like every time I'm like, God, he's good. So I'm so excited that he is joining us today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Guys, thanks for having me on the podcast, and I'm truly humbled to be here, and I really appreciate your kind words. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Yeah, I definitely can't wait for this podcast because I definitely think to me in my brain, is it like high achievers are anxious or anxiety causes us to be high achievers? Get into that.
Chicken or the egg, right?
Right.
Totally.
So thankful that you're here with us today. But tell our audience a little bit about you.
Definitely. I come from humble beginnings. My dad's a cook. My mom's a cashier at a grocery store, so money was tight growing up. But I'm grateful that I got to grow up in a nuclear intact family, 2 loving parents. I got a younger brother as well. I grew up in Greece, came to the States at 16. I was born here, but I grew up in Greece and came here as a sophomore in high school. A buddy of mine asked me what's up, and I looked up in the ceiling back then. So we've come a long ways since then. Those were some challenging times being the foreign kid in high school, but we've come a long ways. And then I just took a traditional path like others, just college, med school, residency, and I've been attending for about 10 years now. I spend about half my time treating docs for some local hospitals and the other half of the time in the community, treating people with mental health conditions.
Nice. So is your patient population doctors?
I'd say about 50%. I'd say roughly 50%.
Nice.
Yeah, through there's like an Akron Physician Wellness Initiative, if you guys Google it. And we treat medical staff for a couple local hospitals. So I have the opportunity to help out docs with, their mental health needs. Yeah.
That's amazing that half your work is docs. That's awesome.
Yeah, totally. And I just want to say that like as physicians, we're like in the front lines of human suffering. People don't come to us because they're happy-go-lucky. There's a problem. And we're often exposed to their concerns. We're often exposed to traumatic experiences being in the front lines. So you do that over and over again on a daily basis, right? I mean, how can you not be impacted? I mean, I'm sure you guys as ER physicians have seen some really traumatic things, and you just keep on stacking those experiences. It's hard not to be impacted by that. So I think we need to normalize doctors getting care just because of the nature of our work to begin with.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
See, I told you guys.
I mean it.
He's
and
the guy.
like, I know this isn't the first question, but why do you think we are not taught this in residency or med school or anything? Why? You just said it perfectly that I don't know who they is, but society, like med schools, residency programs, know we are going to get out and suffer this secondary traumatic stress, this post-traumatic stress. Why do you think this is not addressed early?
Yeah, because I think part of it is like the culture of medicine teaches us to be like stoic and to like just sacrifice ourselves. Like they train us to be a certain way, emotionally speaking. And how often do we hear about like medical students and residents being exposed to traumas and then just told to just continue going on to the next case as if it never happened, right? And then you don't want to be like the first one raising your hand and saying like, hey, can we talk about that? Especially like, again, in a position where you don't have as much leverage as a resident or a medical student, right? Because you want to make a good impression on attendings and get good grades to move forward with your life. So that just perpetuates this culture of secrecy, stoicism, self-sacrifice. But then at some point it comes back to bite us. Like you can only suppress and repress for so long your thoughts and feelings before they come back with a vengeance.
That's so true. Yeah, people, you heard it here. You heard it here.
Well, and we've all lived it. That's what happened. Yeah.
It is. It's a real thing. And I wonder, something else came to mind too. when we get out like 5, 10 years, 15, 20 years, I wonder how much of the performance improvement plans, peer reviews, like when there's a behavior or when a doc gets called out for whatever it is, I wonder how much of that is a situation triggered that doctor, B, it was a situation that maybe they had high anxiety about. Like, I wonder how much behind a behavior or something like a peer review is called, that there is a real trigger, a real secondary traumatic stress, a real anxiety provoking situation that like hid behind that behavior.
Yeah, I think it's multifactorial. I think I agree with you, Dr. Morrison, that like I think, you're exposed to trauma frequently at high rates, you're going to be impacted by that, right? When you're exposed to trauma, you're more likely to be more flight or fight in your responses. You tend to be a little more reactive, right? I would also add, in addition to what you're saying, that I think our training, it focuses so much on details, academic details, that it doesn't teach us how to be human, how to have emotional intelligence, how to express our feelings, right? We spend so many years memorizing the Krebs cycle and the origin and insertion of every muscle, right? Back in the day,
Right.
the half-lives of these medications, but we don't learn how to say I need help or how to console somebody. We don't learn these skills, these emotional skills that make us, I think, more effective in our daily interactions, and also, I think, healthier from an emotional standpoint.
Well, in your fabulous TEDx talk, it's titled, if you guys want to look it up, Why Success Won't Make You Happy. But in it, you talk about how our obsession with success and achievement is actually hurting us. How is this?
Yeah, definitely. And there's nothing wrong with pursuing goals, individual goals, and trying to be successful. There's nothing wrong with that. That's great. I mean, you need to be achievement oriented to go through, to get into med school and make it through med school and get into residency and become an attending. But sometimes we become so obsessed with success that we're neglecting other other values that are just as important, such as kindness and empathy and service and integrity, because these are important values too. But sometimes we sacrifice those at the altar of success, of achievement, right? And when you look at the data, you'll see that there's some concerning trends in society. One is that perfectionism is on the rise, and perfectionism is a recipe for suffering. It goes hand in hand with a host of mental health conditions: depression, anxiety, suicide, PTSD. I can go on and on. Number two, narcissism is on the rise significantly, at least 30% of an increase in narcissism. So we've become more self-absorbed and less caring for others. And number three, empathy is on the decline. I mean, when there's like a study out there of college students and they scored less empathetic compared to like their predecessors. So when you have an increase in perfectionism, an increase in narcissism, and a reduction in empathy, I think that's a very concerning trend from societal standpoint. It's hurting the fabric of society, and also it comes at a cost to our own mental health, right? So I think it's okay to like achieve, but you want to have a healthy relationship with achievement. Like if I'm thinking about some of my patients, quite frankly, they work so hard, they're working day to night, dawn to dusk, but they're neglecting their families. And then they go home and they're arguing with their spouses, and their kids are acting out, and they're like, well, why? What's going on with my family? Well, are you spending any time with them? Are you being present with them? Like, do you check in on them? But if you're always obsessed with your individual goals and career advancement, that you're neglecting the people who matter most to you, I would argue that maybe you don't have a healthy relationship with achievement, as in that example. So that's what I'm referring to, like this obsession with success. You just want to be very mindful of like not compromising and sacrificing loved ones, your mental health, and as you pursue your individual goals.
Yeah, those are all really, really good points. You also discussed 3 myths. The first myth is that success equals happiness. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, totally. So as human beings, we look into the future and we pursue events that will make us happy. And we're pretty good, that's known as affect forecasting, and we're pretty good at predicting the quality of future emotions. The example I like to give is if somebody wants to give me $1 million, I'll gladly take it. But if the IRS wants $1 million, I won't be happy about that, right? But we fall for a trap known as the impact bias. We're not good at predicting the duration of future emotions and their intensity. So we can figure out the quality, but not the duration or the intensity. So what happens is you get to the top of your mountain and you feel good. You're proud that you became a doctor, you bought a house, or you got married, whatever the goal is. But the satisfaction from that achievement is short-lived, because what happens is the job of the brain is not to make you happy. The job of the brain from an evolutionary standpoint is to keep you dissatisfied. That promotes survival. If you have a bunch of food resources for our ancestors and you're satisfied, you're not going to get up to get more food. But if you're dissatisfied with what you have, you're more likely to get up and go hunting and searching for more food. So the job of your brain is to promote survival, and it does that by keeping you dissatisfied. So once you achieve a goal, becoming a physician, again, whatever the goal is, then you're back at some point craving more. So that's the trap that we fall for. We think we'll be happy when we achieve a goal, but once you get there, you just move the target. It's the point that we don't even feel proud of being physicians. We've lost track of the achievement and the hard work that it took to become a doctor, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that I don't think we've ever phrased it that way. We talk about the arrival fallacy a lot, but that our brain's job is to keep us dissatisfied is just fascinating. Wow.
Yeah.
So
and
that's
different. They're slightly different. The arrival fallacy means I will be happy when. And the problem with that one is you're so focused on the future happiness that you're sacrificing today's happiness. It's like going for a 2-mile walk at a park and you're focused so much on the destination that you're not appreciating the sights, smells, and sounds of the hike. Whereas this one it's a little different because you overestimate the happiness. Like even when you get there and there's happiness, I will be happy when, we overestimate how much happier we will be. They're slightly different, the impact bias versus the arrival fallacy, though they're both cognitive traps that we fall for.
so interesting. So the second myth that you mentioned is that kindness is a barrier to success. How is this misguided?
Yeah, I mean, great question. I think kindness has become synonymous with being soft in society and being weak. And what I tell people is that it takes tremendous strength to be kind and to maintain your composure when somebody's being unkind to you, and to take the high road and to be civil, right? But you can be kind and set boundaries. You can be kind and advocate for yourself. Like, kindness is not an invitation to being taken advantage of. Kindness simply means that I'm going to treat you like a human being. I'm going to be very classy in this interaction, but I'm still going to do what I need to do, be it set boundaries or be it pursue individual goals. But I think because kindness has that negative connotation, that people sometimes they poo-poo it and they push it away.
Yeah, I think that clarifies it so much that you can be kind and you can have really good boundaries, and that is definitely not a barrier to your success.
Totally.
So the third myth that you mentioned is that self-worth is determined by the level of our success. What's a better way to judge our self-worth?
Yeah, I think what we do is we base our self-worth off of like external factors. I don't know, titles, degrees, net worth, purchases, materialism. And the reality is that your self-worth is an innate part of your humanity. Like you are worthy because you're human. The example I like to give is, well, my dad's a cook, like I said, and my mom's a cashier at a grocery store. Am I a more worthy human being because I'm a physician with a different lifestyle? The answer is no, of course not, because your self-worth is not determined by being a physician. Your self-worth, it's within. It's an inherent part of our humanity. Every human being is worthy. But we forget that, and we just start to idealize people and idolize people who are successful. And we forget that they also have flaws and they're human, and they have stuff to work on as well, like everyone else.
That's amazing. So how do we start to turn around this obsession with achievement and success for ourselves and our families?
Yeah, good question. I think we need to press pause and really understand that success does not guarantee happiness. And again, it doesn't mean that you don't pursue your individual goals, but you just have to realize that it doesn't guarantee it. Plenty of doctors suffer from mental health conditions, plenty of lawyers, dentists. These successful people who are suffering behind the facade of their achievement. And what did we say about our loved ones? We want them to be happy. We want them to have some life satisfaction, some contentment, right? So that means that we have to be well-rounded, and we have to invest in other parts of our lives, not just success, but also our mental health, our physical health, our relationships, self-care. These are things that are very important, because if you think that just achieving a goal will make you happy, you'll feel happy for a couple of days or a couple of weeks, but then you're going to be back to square one, chasing the next goal. And then you're a hamster on a wheel just chasing goals. I mean, that doesn't sound like fun to me. So that's what I'm referring to. Just like, let's make sure that we're well-rounded and that we prioritize our relationships and our health as we progress towards our individual goals.
Yeah, maybe we should get some credit for like how many hugs you got today or something like that.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Goal.
Like,
totally. Well, the
That's
small
a better
things
goal.
matter. Saying hi to somebody, being kind to them, holding a door. That stuff matters. I think since COVID happened, and then we're more technologically advanced as a society, and we've become more polarized, left versus right, that we're failing to see the humanity in one another. But those little things do matter. They make a big difference.
So if you think, like, I was thinking of the opposite. So if someone has kind of this insatiable or uncontrolled tendency to achieve or race after success, and maybe it is or is not giving them self-worth, but would you say that they haven't found what makes them truly happy, or they're still searching, or what do you think about that?
Are you saying somebody who's like always pursuing the next thing and the next thing?
So just an insatiable appetite to achieve and accomplish and succeed. And just like we said, like we think that we go after these successes because we underestimate the intensity of the happiness we feel, or we have the arrival fallacy where we think we'll even be happy when we get there.
Yeah.
My question is do you think that is a result of maybe just not knowing or being clear on what makes you truly happy? Or is it just that we just keep chasing because that's a high achiever and you just
Well, I think that what's key is to be mindful, to be intentional. So we have the need, so we have emotional needs, and these needs govern our thinking and behaving. No different than physical needs, right? For example, we have a need to satisfy our appetites from a physical health standpoint. That's what makes us get up to grab a sandwich, right? We have the need to sleep or use the bathroom, right? Same thing holds true for emotional needs. They govern thinking and behaving when they're unsatisfied. So an example of some of these needs that can be fulfilled through achievement is the need for growth and the need for contribution. Like, I am growing, I am challenging myself towards a goal, and hopefully as I grow, I get to help other people along the way. And that's very noble. There's nothing wrong with that. That can be a source of life satisfaction, pursuing a goal and achieving a goal. And to be very clear, I'm not anti-achievement. That's not what I'm saying. I want people to be very mindful, though, and intentional. Like, if you're always chasing something and you're constantly dissatisfied and you're sacrificing relationships along the way, something is off. Like, you're not having a healthy relationship with achievement. But if you're able to, like, okay, I'm going to pursue an individual goal, but I'm going to do it maybe at a slower pace because I also want to, like, not neglect my loved ones, or I want to not neglect my health, that sounds a little more sustainable and realistic. And you realize that if you make it to your goal, again, you'll have a sense of satisfaction, but it's not going to solve all of your life's problems, right? So it's about having that healthy relationship with achievement. I'm not telling people not to achieve. That's not healthy either, but not the other extreme where, like, you're always go to the point that you're, like, never pressing pause. That's not healthy either. I think healthy achievement looks like a slow, steady fire where you're just kind of chipping away at it, maintaining a healthy pace, being disciplined, but you're not compromising your health or your relationships in pursuit of the goal. So if you can do it that way, it can be very satisfying. But if you're achieving because you have these unrealistic expectations and you get there and you're disappointed and you've sacrificed relationships along the way, that doesn't sound satisfying at all.
I almost wonder if people get stuck in trying to prove their worth instead of having that inherent sense, because if you're looking externally, it never does, like, fill that hole, really. I mean, I don't know. You're the psychiatrist.
No, I agree. I agree.
I wonder.
It's about like being able to look yourself in the mirror and feeling good about what you've done. Not because you're looking for external accolades, but because you feel good about the work that you've done, regardless of what other people think. Like, you know that you did a good job with that, for example, patient or with that family member. It's about being able to look ourselves in a mirror and having esteem for the self. That's where self-esteem comes from, like feeling good about you because you did it based on good values, not what other people think, right?
Well, and you mentioned two of our favorite topics of narcissism and perfectionism. But one of those things with perfectionism is if you're judging if you only get to have self-worth when you're perfect, which is impossible, then it's an endless like you never can be satisfied because it doesn't exist.
No. And perfectionism, I understand why medicine promotes it, because if we make a mistake, we can kill somebody. Like, bad things can happen.
Yeah.
Being a perfectionist, so I understand like that medicine has very little margin for error and it can be very unforgiving. And perfectionism is promoted within medicine. The problem that I see, though, is that doctors take that perfectionism and they extend it to every part of their life. I've worked with doctors who had to have a perfectly manicured lawn, and the clothes had to be clean and folded a certain way, right? And if their kids had like a stain on their pants, oh my goodness, right? I mean, I've seen that transpire. I've seen like perfectionism consume other parts of their life to the point that it was suffocating their loved ones and suffocating their life. So what I tell people is, I think there's a time and a place for us to try to be perfect. Like, when I'm writing a script, I better not add an extra zero when I'm writing a script, right? Like, I better do that perfectly. There's no margin for error when writing a script or when you're doing an incision, right? But do I have to be perfect in other parts of my life? No, the answer is absolutely not. And to be able to turn it on and off, I think that's important. But we have a hard time doing that because we're surrounded by so you're a perfectionist comparing yourself to other perfectionists. That is a tough comparison, isn't it?
Laura, did you want to say something?
Just wanted to say how much I appreciate your emphasis on kindness, because I think it's an underrated way to improve our own mental health, is to extend kindness to other people. When we put it out, there are psychological benefits for ourselves. I mean, the woo would say the energy you put out is the energy that comes back, but there's some truth to that. So thanks for highlighting that. I think you're absolutely right. And we see this in the emergency department all the time. People do not have the same level of kindness, even that they had before the pandemic. And it's sad for society.
No, thank you for saying that. And I agree with everything that you said. And just one small addition, I also think we need to be kind to ourselves, because we're perfectionists, don't take failure well, and just being kinder to ourselves and knowing that we're human and we're doing the best we can to balance competing responsibilities. It's not easy at all.
And I think you were right too with just to tail that, I think the lack of empathy is also the patients we see. They are less and less empathetic towards what we're doing. And we talk about it to our colleagues, especially in the emergency department, that when we see some of our frustrations are these patients that have, we call it unrealistic expectations, or we just say like whatever. But honestly, it a little bit planted a seed in my brain when you said that, like, well, society is losing empathy, then maybe that's what these patients, they're just less empathic towards like our situation as well. They've just like, not only is there a sort of like a reduction in the level of respect and honor, I feel like since, and maybe before the pandemic, but definitely since the pandemic, but then society in general is losing their empathy. And so honestly, that's a recipe to get just completely hosed.
Totally.
But I think that it brings that awareness that society is who we take care of. So if there are trends in society, we are going to see them. We take care of society.
Yeah.
And I just think that awareness is crucial.
That's an outstanding point. I totally agree with you.
So I'm assuming to have you as somebody's psychiatrist, they would need to be in Ohio. But do you give in-person talks? And if so, how does somebody get in touch with you? How do they find out more?
Yeah, totally. The last talk that I gave was earlier this month. I don't know if you guys heard of the White Coat Investor. They had like a physician wellness conference. I spoke there earlier this month. I would say a good place to reach out is social media at Dr. Dimitrios on, what is it, X and Instagram. I also have a website where I publish different articles that I write. I share my writing there, dimitriossatiris.com. And on my website there, people can contact me with any professional inquiries. So yeah,
Awesome.
stay connected with people, definitely.
I love it. Well, before we close out, are there any last thoughts?
No, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to discuss this important topic. As doctors, we're very achievement oriented. It's in our DNA. And I just think it's important for us to make sure that we have a healthy relationship with achievement. So we're not sacrificing our health or our loved ones at the altar of achievement. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dimitrios, so much for being here today and just enlightening us.
Thank you for the opportunity to be on your podcast. And thank you for the work that you're doing too, to spread the word and have a positive ripple effect in the lives of our colleagues. Physicians, we suffer at high rates of depression, anxiety, burnout. And I think it's good that we're having this conversation. It's very important.
All right. So thank you for joining us today. We want to let you know about an exciting retreat coming up that we will be a part of. And who does not want to get away to sunny SoCal for a weekend? Join us for the Revitalized Women's Retreat on April 5th through 7th in Huntington Beach. We will include the link in the show notes. So you can click on there, and there are going to be many of us there gathering, enjoying the sunshine, and having some community. And we recently launched a new version of our online course, Wellness 911. Go to www.thewholephysician.com to get more information. We take demoralized doctors from fried to fantastic with our easy and evidence-based Wellness 911 program. So until next time, you are whole, you are a gift to medicine, and the work you do matters.